I'm Steve McMarson, host of In the Raw. Join me as I interview artists as we explore the idea of creativity. A freelance fashion stylist and costume designer, she has worked with some of the biggest designers and celebrities in the industry. Her plaudits include participation in the 2014 New York Fashion Week show. Our featured conversation is with fashionista Kelly Summers.
Hi, I'm Kelly Summers. I'm a fashion stylist and costume designer, and I'm in the role with Steve McMarson. Creativity to me is just, I guess, an extension of my personality. I don't really feel whole, I guess, unless I have some kind of involvement in the fashion industry, and I'm always brought back to it. So for me, it's my creative outlet. It's something that, doesn't necessarily define who I am, but it helps me be able to really be the person that I am.
And what made you decide to pursue a creative career option instead of something that was perhaps more stable or less exciting?
For me, I've tried the sensible and less exciting path many times, and I don't think it's really a choice for me. I always get brought back to the fashion industry, no matter what little skew path I try to take. So I've just learnt to accept it and to have faith in the talent and be able to follow the dream.
Who and what inspires you?
I take inspiration from many different places in the fashion industry and film industry as well, because I cross over. So, celebrities like Miranda Kerr, Jessica Alba, Rachel Bilson. I like looking at all of their style. I think it's really, organic and something that they don't necessarily follow the trends, but they like to sort of put their own stamp on it, which is, I like that. Currently in costuming, I love the work on the new Cinderella movie by Sandy Powell. So my inspirations in costuming would change regularly depending on the sorts of projects that are coming out. But I think she does a great job.
You mentioned off set that it's a very competitive industry. Do you strive to be unique, to give yourself a point of distinction in the marketplace?
I think I always do strive to be unique. It depends on the project that's brought to me as well. So because I do work in film, I get a lot of creative leeway, I guess. I do have a lot of the control over it, which is really good for me, and it does allow me to have that unique, point from other stylists in the industry. My unique point, I guess, is that I cross over and do styling and costuming, and not a lot of them do. But I find the costuming is where I get to do my creative, really out there sort of stuff. And my fashion styling, it's a lot more mainstream, but it makes the money.
And what do you do to keep yourself interested in your art form? Is there any sort of creative processes that you like to follow?
I try to design regularly, regardless of whether I have a project that it's specific for or not, but also just hanging out with other people in the industry. I find that's one of my main motivators. There's a lot of people outside of creative industries that they just don't get it. They kind of are always asking, when are you going to get a real job and that sort of thing. But I just feed off other people's passion and being surrounded by that.
What is the biggest opposing force to your creative process?
I think the toughest thing in the styling industry is how competitive it can be, and it's a networking thing. So people sort of continue to work with people that they already know. So it's a matter of trying to break into those circles that can provide you with regular work and projects that actually keep you interested as well.
If you could interview anyone, past or present, who would it be and what would you ask them?
I think currently it would probably be Sandy Powell. She did such an amazing job on the Cinderella movie. I'm not really into usually that kind of movie, but I literally was interested simply because of the costuming, and she's got a great history in the industry as well. And I guess, what would I ask her? Probably what's her favourite skill to be putting into the gowns and things like that that she gets to make.
What do you wish to accomplish in your field of art?
Ideally for me, I'd like to progress above the Australian and especially local film and television industry, and be able to work on some of the big Hollywood films. I'd love to be able to do that and just travel with my work and be able to enjoy combining the two, travel and design, two of my passions. So, you know, as far as I'm concerned, if I could have both, then that would be the dream.
I know that over the past few years you've travelled quite a bit with your work. Can you talk us through some of those projects?
Most recently was New York Fashion Week, which was this time last year. So I was lucky enough to go over and work with the designer Mara Hoffman on her Fashion Week show. I was there for about 4 weeks in total, and just crazy. I think I saw New York for 1 day out of the whole time I was there, and the rest of the time was just in the design studio, helping with getting the sample range ready and working on patterns, and basically going back to what my original skills were years ago. It really gave me a reminder of where I came from and what got me started, which was a really refreshing sort of point of view to take away from the experience.
In a few sentences, if possible, can you sum up the differences between working in Australia and the United States within your industry?
Especially in the film industry, I would say in Australia, it's very competitive, and not necessarily supportive competitive. People get very jealous of other people's accomplishments. But from my experience in the States, everybody was willing and ready to help everybody out. They were happy for their colleagues' accomplishments and that sort of thing. And I think that's just in perspective to the size of the industries as well. Over here, it's so competitive that people think they're going to miss out on something because there's not as many projects to be involved in. Whereas over there, everybody knows somebody that is going to help them get to, and that's how they all got there in the first place. So I find they're usually more willing to pass that experience on.
When you're working on a project, how do you know when the work is finished, it's done, there's nothing left to be added to it?
Well, I get very strict deadlines for mine. So, I guess though with costumes and things like that, it's usually I get to make the original design, and then whether it needs to look like it's been worn and it's old. I think I'm pretty decisive when something's done, it's done. So I don't sort of, like with a painting, keep trying to go at it, I sort of have the design laid out right from the start, and I work to that. Once I'm happy with that it looks like the picture that it was supposed to, then that's it, I'm happy to move on to the next one.
What are some of the changes that you've seen within your industry, and has technology been a part of that?
Well, I think definitely in terms of the fashion styling side of things, technology plays a massive part, because you need to have an online presence to become successful in that sort of industry, or stand out from your competition. To be able to get yourself out there, it can get you a lot of work as well if you can do it really well. So I guess also I do enjoy being able to do some costume designing digitally, because I can get a more refined result than what I can with my drawing ability.
What advice would you have for aspiring artists in your field?
I would say be prepared to work for free for a couple of years to get your foot in the door, and just be genuine. You need to be able to make the connections with other people in the industry, and that's what will get you the work in the long run. There's, the stylists are a dime a dozen, but unless you've got those good personal connections for business purposes, then, they could just as easily choose somebody else. The project I worked on last year was a superhero short film called Gifted, and the costuming was very precise for the main character. that was actually already done before I was brought on board. It was like a superhero outfit, which was pretty cool. But then I was brought in to do all of the other characters, which included basically styling pieces from other wardrobes and being able to use them for looks from regular day people through to the villain himself. And for that project specifically, I actually sourced a lot of things just from regular clothing stores. So for example, they wanted, a big long trench coat with a hooded effect, which was very difficult to find. So I just double layered, a hoodie underneath the big long trench coat. So it's about being able to, I guess, see what the end project's going to look like on film without sort of necessarily taking it just for what it looks like when it's right in front of you. Another project that I recently worked on is called Garrison 7, and that was actually more of a sci-fi sort of flick. So there was a lot of armours involved, which had all, wear and tear and mouldings and all sorts of things that was done by a special effects artist. So it was really cool to see that side of costuming as well. But for myself, it was about being able to adapt a look from everyday items, again, just out of regular fashion stores, and being able to match it back to a futuristic sci-fi sort of look, which we got a really good result from in the end. So
it sounds like it's a very complex visualization that you have to keep in your head as you're working throughout the whole project.
Most definitely, because you've got to, especially when I get brought in at that level, so there'll be, some costumes that are already made that give a very strong feel to what the movie or film or short film or whatever it might be. And then I have to make sure that the regular items that we get match that same look and feel and era. So it's really fun to be able to explore the different time periods and all that sort of thing, which you don't get by just doing a normal fashion shoot. I'm Kelly Summers. I'm a fashion stylist and costume designer, and I've been caught in the rAW with Steve McMarson.